part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And with that hammy call, it is time for another episode of Guardians of the Land MLB podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I am Mike Voorhees, and across from me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, the meteorologist extraordinaire, and resident statistician, Bryan Shaw. Bryan, how are you, good sir?
The intros keep getting greater and greater every episode. Thank you so much, sir. Mike. Good to be here with you. We are a couple of days late. This is actually take two.
Take two.
We tried to do this on Friday, and as sometimes things go, we had some technical problems. But actually, I think there's more excitement to talk about since we missed the weekend.
Absolutely, so much more to talk about. But first, breaking news, Guardians fans. The Guardians have a new minority owner. It is official. It hasn't been announced by the team as of yet. I'm thinking they're waiting until this weekend. However, it is being reported David Blitzer, private equity investor who has stakes with the Philadelphia 76ers and New Jersey Devils of the NHL, becomes our new minority owner, Bryan.
And that should mean an influx of money, because
yes, we like money.
There was a distinct difference of when we had a minority owner, which then became the Kansas City Royals owner, of what they were spending then versus what they were spending when he wasn't a minority owner, and they've been looking for one ever since. And there is the option for him to become the majority owner in, I believe it's 6 years. But I was reading some articles and I was looking over some financials.
Of course, that's why you're the resident statistician.
And
do your homework.
His net worth is listed at 1.3 billion.
That's not enough to buy the team.
By himself, it doesn't seem that way. It would have to
have a group,
a partnership. The Dolans stay in as a minority owner, maybe 30-40%, whatever it is. But yeah, 1.3 billion himself probably isn't enough, because if we're going based off of what the Royals sold for, which was $1 billion, and if the Guardians are worth the same, that means he just bought the minority ownership. It was believed to be 25%, so $250 million of an influx of cash. And with their willingness to at least try to make trades in the offseason, the way this team is playing, and now with an influx of cash, I see no reason why they couldn't be buyers at the trade deadline.
Does that mean we get to go shopping? Yes. Let's spend money.
Who's on your wish list? Who's in your shopping cart, Mike?
Wilson Contreras, catcher for the Cubs, Bryan Reynolds, but we can talk about that later on as we get closer to the trade deadline. But let's talk about the Guardians. We got a little bit of a scare. I'm still having a panic attack because I have not received any news. I've been refreshing my Twitter feed every 5 minutes, and it is not yet announced. For those that missed it, Jose Ramirez, the all-star, our MVP, whatever you want to call him, jammed his thumb apparently in Colorado, and it was bothering him quite a bit. So the team sat him out of the Saturday night game against the Dodgers and sat him out of the Sunday game as well. He underwent an MRI on Sunday morning. However, there has not been, unless it's happened in the last few minutes, no update regarding Jose's status. So I'm going to lay on the floor and say some extra prayers, and we really cannot afford to lose Jose Ramirez.
I think he'll be just fine. If you watch the game on Sunday, he was pacing in the dugout like a caged cheetah.
He wanted to play so
and
bad.
He wanted in that game. I had thought that they put him in for Stephen Kwan, and then they walked him, but they walked Kwan instead to load the bases. And I was going to laugh really hard if they put Jose in just for him to get walked.
Hey,
but
you get on base any way you can.
But he I think he'll be fine. We have some other players coming back as well for this Twin Series, which is going to be a big one. We're going to have Franmil Reyes back. Aaron Savali is expected to start on Tuesday.
So his
this
butt
is a
no
huge
longer
series.
hurts, right?
He's no
Savali's
longer a
butt
pain in the ass.
muscle.
No.
Yeah, there it is. He's no longer a pain. Savali's back. Now the question becomes, what will the roster moves happen? Because obviously Major League Baseball changed the rules a little bit. And starting today, you may only carry 13 pitchers on out of the 20, is it 27-man roster? Or are we still at 26?
I
always get this confused. I know that there was 28 when we started, and now I think it's 26. So you can only have half of the 26-man roster be pitchers. The Guardians currently have 14 pitchers, Brian. So I'm imagining Anthony Castro is going to get sent down, as well as someone else. Now that's where it becomes very tricky, because Richie Palacios has done enough to stay on this team as a bench bat. This guy knows how to pinch hit in clutch situations. He's looked really good. Oscar Gonzalez, there's no way you can send him down right now. The way he's hitting the ball, he just hit his first major league home run. Congratulations to Oscar Gonzalez. You can't send him down. Kwan's not going anywhere. So who's the odd man out?
I think, well, there's two options. So in my mind, it's going to be Palacios because he has options.
I think that's a mistake.
Well, who else? You can't option. I don't think you can option Ernie Clement because you need his infield utility.
No, I think you DFA. I hate to say this, but I think
Oscar
it's time
Mercado.
we DFA Oscar Mercado.
The only reason
he just hasn't done it for me.
I don't disagree, but I wonder, and here's my logic and me trying to think like they do.
Yeah.
With Franmil coming back, with Josh Naylor not really being able to play right field all that often, Oscar Gonzalez has done pretty well in right field, but that's not his natural position. Do you keep Mercado because of defense?
Man, it's going to be tricky, and it's going to be something interesting to watch. I agree with the defensive part. Mercado is incredible with the glove. He just hasn't gotten the offense started. I don't know. The more Oscar Gonzalez plays, the more I like him. I want to see him play every day. I want to see him out in the outfield. I like Kwan. I mean, Palacios, in my opinion, has done enough to stay. But my goodness.
Or do you option another pitcher?
Well, I don't think they're going to carry 12 pitchers. I think you're going to carry 13, just because Savali, you don't know. You don't want to tax him right away. I mean, Quantrill got hit hard on, was it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. He got hit hard pretty well. I don't know. I think you carry 13. The more I think about it, Palacios is probably the guy. I'm going to be upset if that happens, just because I think that kid has played extremely well.
I agree.
I know he can play defense. So I think you could keep Palacios and just DFA Mercado, and hopefully he passes through waivers and he'll accept the option back to AAA. That's my hope.
But this is just kind of a microcosm of like what we are going to see with this team going forward.
Yeah.
There's going to be some tough decisions here coming up, because what are you going to do when Gabriel Arias is a part of this team, and Nolan Jones and George Valera? There's going to be some guys.
Don't forget about James Karinchak, who's close to returning.
James Karinchak is another one that
for those that don't know what we're talking about, the 40-man roster is completely full. We have a complete 40-man roster, mostly of middle infielders and young prospects that the team is not going to want to release. However, they could package some in a trade. And that's an option. I don't know. It's going to be,
I believe Tyler Freeman just won Player of the Week.
Yeah,
and
Tyler Freeman's playing really well. So
he's another one that's up and coming. But this team has been playing very well. They were 32-27, 2 games behind the Twins going into the Dodgers series.
Yep,
they won that first game against the Dodgers, and it was a squeaker.
What a game! Oh, what a game!
1 in 10 innings, ended up getting it was, I believe, both their runs were on sac flies.
They were. It was such a boring offensive game. Lots of great pitching and defense, though.
And that was a Plesac game. So just a great game. And then a little bit of a stinker on Saturday, giving up 7 runs and losing 7-1. But they're the Dodgers. And
let's
I
be
think
honest here. Did you think that the Guardians were just never going to lose again? Because I know they were going to lose. They were going to lose at some point.
To only win maybe 1 against the Dodgers,
and then shock and surprise.
They take the series.
Yeah, and
so now,
Bryan, was Friday night the night Stephen Kwan made what I consider to be the play of the year? Was that? Did he do that in LA? The diving catch?
That was, I believe,
was that Colorado?
That was
anyway.
in Colorado.
That was the play of the year.
But yes, that saved that game.
It did.
Yeah, that saved that game. That full extension layout in left field.
Yep.
But up and coming, we are going to be playing Minnesota 8 times in 10 days.
Man, guys.
So we're at Minnesota for 3.
Yep.
Boston is here for 3. And then Minnesota is here for 5.
One of them is a makeup game. And not a makeup game. It's a doubleheader to add some of the games that were missed from the season starting late. Yep. So
the division could very well
for grabs
be looking very different after going into July 1st.
Yeah, don't forget that July 1st series with the Yankees in Cleveland, where we don't have to worry about going to that trash city of New York and dealing with their fans who like to throw stuff. I'm interested to see how the Guardians fans react to the Yankees. Their first time and their only time here. I mean, they're one of the hottest teams in baseball. So I'm so excited. Buckle up. I use that term so much, but buckle up. It's about to get interesting.
So, and one interesting part about this too is the team is currently of Terry Francona teams. They are only 1 game behind the 2016 team. Last year.
You know what else, Bryan?
At this point in time, on this date, basically, I think it was the 21st, the 2021 Guardians were 10 games above 500.
Wow.
And then they just hit a slew of injuries with Reyes, Bieber, Savali, and Plesac. And they lost like 12 of 14, and they were basically 500 the rest of the way. So they weren't a bad team. They were still young and exciting back then too.
What happened in 2016? Refresh my memory. I may have been sleeping. What happened then?
Something about the big dance. Something about championships.
Oh, they were in the World Series. That's right. And for those that don't remember, I slept through Game 7 of the World Series. But we won't talk about that. Anyway.
And by no means are we saying that this is potentially a World Series team, but I wanted to bring it up for some context because after 62 games, this team currently has a better record than the 2017 team. That was very good. That won over 100 games.
And that's
the 2018 team
spent money too. They brought in Encarnacion that year. Yep.
And the 2018 team that went to the playoffs.
That's
the 17 team.
The 22 win streak or 23 game win streak was
17.
Oh, that was Jay Bruce. And
that was Jay Bruce. And then 18. So it's just some context to add to that. This team is actually playing very well, and they're doing it different. I pulled some stats on Friday, and I wanted to rattle off some of these for you of their hitting approach and what their game plan is.
Yeah.
So our Cleveland Guardians have the fewest strikeouts in Major League Baseball.
Wait a minute. What? I'm sorry. What did you just say? I swear I had something in my ear. It's not just my headphones, but
did you say
we have the least amount of strikeouts? We have Franmil on this team.
We had Bobby Bradley on this team.
What? Where did this come from? Shock and surprise there, folks. Come on.
But not just fewest strikeouts. They have the lowest whiff percentage in Major League Baseball.
So they're swinging at good pitches.
They have the highest in zone contact in Major League Baseball. They have the highest chase contact in Major League Baseball. So they're making contact even for pitches out of the zone. But they have the second lowest first pitch swing percentage. So they're not swinging at first pitches. They're taking pitches. They're getting those pitch counts up. They also have the lowest swing percentage at meatball pitches, which are pitches that are perfect right down the middle of the plate.
Right down
that one
Broadway.
I would like to see up a little bit, but you have to wonder how many of those are those first pitches that they're just taking for the sake of taking and getting the pitch count up. Now, their exit velocity isn't great. When I looked, they were fourth last at 87.6 miles an hour of average exit velocity, whereas the Yankees are number one at 3 miles an hour.
Well, hold on a minute. The Yankees do play their games in like a shoebox that's like this one of the smallest stadiums. And
that doesn't change how hard the ball comes off the bat. I know,
I'm just teasing. They have some sluggers on that team. So yeah, but that's a huge difference. 3 miles an hour is a lot.
But interestingly enough, they are middle of the road when it comes to solid contact percentage. So they're just not barreling the ball up as much. And then one more final stat, couple of not so good ones, but one more to kind of top this off in our compliment sandwich here. Second in Major League Baseball in opposite field hits.
Yeah, oppos, man. You got to love it. That's amazing. I love that.
So definitely a much different approach to what we're used to. They're kind of going old school when it comes to the approach. I had heard some conversation about why that is. And instead of the strikeout home run approach that you've seen a lot of Major League Baseball teams take, basically the Guardians are saying, put the ball in play and let's see what happens. If you have had instances like against Chicago, remember the Chicago game where they were just fumbling over everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he scored how many runs in that instance because their shortstop couldn't field the ball to save his life?
Poor Tim Anderson.
So you put the ball in play. They're playing old school baseball. They're zigging when everybody else is zagging, and it seems to have paid off so far. We've been saying this for weeks. If you haven't been paying attention, start paying attention because this team is exciting.
They absolutely are. Hold on a second, Brian. We've got to pay some bills. We're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, I want to tell you that Miles Straw should no longer be the cleanup hitter of the Cleveland Guardians. And
you mean the leadoff hitter?
What did I say?
The
cleanup hitter. No, he'll never be the cleanup hitter. But I want to tell you why Miles Straw is to be moved out of the leadoff spot, and I will floor you with who I would like to see in that leadoff spot. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
All right, Brian. So I said right before commercial, I want to see a new leadoff hitter for the Cleveland Guardians. For those that haven't been paying attention, Miles Straw is currently hitting 211 with 7 RBIs and 11 stolen bases. I don't think that is cutting it as a leadoff hitter. Your leadoff hitter is the guy that's supposed to get on base, manufacture runs, do what he needs to do. He's one of the fastest guys in Major League Baseball, but he's not getting on base on a regular basis. Bryan, would you agree with that statement?
I would agree with that statement because his on base percentage is only 298, and there's several guys in the 300 range.
Right. So let me ask you, Bryan, who would you like to see in the leadoff spot if you could manage the team for a day?
Who I would put in the leadoff spot, because he's been there a couple of times and it didn't seem like that the moment was too big for him. And there's a couple other guys doing well in a couple of other spots that I don't want to mess with that. But I basically flip-flop Steven Kwan and Miles Straw in the lineup. And I go Kwan, Rosario, Jose. And as of right now, I'm leaving Oscar Gonzalez in that cleanup spot because he's doing just fine in replacement of Owen Miller, who is also struggling, and they moved him down into the lineup a little bit. He's not having a great June. But I know you have somebody else in mind, and you said we were going to be shocked. We were going to be shocked and appalled. We were shocked and appalled last 2 weeks too.
And it bothers me that I even have to say his name because for a while I've been ragging him.
But love him.
The guy has been on fire. Currently has an amazing hitting streak. Hit his first home run of the season Wednesday night. My choice as the new leadoff hitter for the Cleveland Guardians is Ahmed Rosario.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I just like him in the second spot.
I think I would like Ahmed in the 1 as the leadoff. I would like to see Steven Kwan back in the 2 hole where he started the season and was there very early on and produced. I'd like to see that, leaving Jose in the 3 hole. 4 is Oscar Gonzalez, 5 Naylor, 6 Jimenez down the line. But I honestly think.
And then where's Franmil in there?
Franmil, if Oscar Gonzalez is playing right field, then Franmil is the DH, and I'd probably put him in the 7 hole because I want to see Franmil start to hit consistently. And then we could slide him up the roster.
I'm not saying this is the 95 Indians, but with Franmil Reyes batting 7th in your lineup, talk about some length finally for this team when it comes to offense.
Yeah. I mean, aside from a catcher that's not even hitting his weight currently, and that's Austin Hedges, but is one of the best defensive catchers in the game. You cannot take him out of your lineup. And then if you have Hedges hitting 8th and then Miles Straw hitting 9th, I mean, this reminds me a lot of the 94, 95 Indians where they had from top to bottom, they had a great lineup. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities from those 90s teams to this team. I just think it's time you move Miles Straw out. I'm not saying he's a terrible player. He's great defensively. He's our center fielder of the future until George Valera gets here and proves that he can produce at the major league level. Then we'll talk about possibly moving Miles to another position, or maybe moving Valera to another position, but we'll see. I just think it's time. I think you want fluidity with this offense. You have to move Miles out of that leadoff spot.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. And I mean, we both made strong cases for who we want there. I say make it happen. I don't disagree with you at all that Miles needs to be moved down the lineup a little bit. They were willing to do it with Owen Miller as he has struggled in June. I don't really understand why they haven't been willing to do it with Miles Straw yet. They even moved Franmil Reyes from 4 to 6 when he was struggling. So yeah. I'm not quite sure why he has been locked into a spot when they've been willing to move other guys around as they've been hot and cold.
If there's one thing we know about Tito, he loves to go with whoever's hot and he likes to adjust the lineup accordingly. But I agree. Why is Miles Straw the only one who's not being moved? He's obviously struggling right now. Let's get his confidence back. Pull him down to the bottom of the order. Allow him to get that confidence back. And then you can put him back in the top of the order. We know Rosario hits lefties well. Quan doesn't really play against lefties. So, I mean, you have some flexibility here. We might as well use it. I mean, I don't see why not. Rosario, I was talking about them trading him. I've been riding him all season about how
And they still
Jimenez
might.
needs to play short. But right now, the guy's playing well, and I know he's well liked in that locker room. Give him a shot at leadoff and see what he does.
And they still might move him because if Gabriel Arias comes up, he's going to be your future shortstop. They could be making a trade. We've talked about how the 40-man is very, very tight, and they've got a slew of guys that are potentially major league ready. And you had mentioned somebody at the beginning of this, and I can't do a backflip, but I would make attempts to do backflips if this team was able to trade for somebody like a Bryan Reynolds.
Are we going to talk about our Christmas list again?
Who's in the shopping cart? Who did you drag and drop into the shopping cart?
So obviously Major League Baseball has a trade deadline. It's coming very soon. And now talking about the influx of potential money here for the Guardians, they could significantly make a move here. And I think, Bryan, you and I have said it multiple times that this 40-man roster is now crunched. And in order to free up some spots, you're going to have to trade. You're going to have to trade some people. I think that's just a given.
And let's keep in mind that they tried to trade for a couple of guys.
They didn't want Eugenio Suarez's contract. And to be honest, have you looked at Jesse Winker right now? He is not playing well. He's hitting below 200. I would not want to see him in our outfield right now.
And then Matt Olson's the other one, right?
And he's doing well in Atlanta. Good for him. They gave him a fat contract. Good luck. And Freddie Freeman.
And if you had signed Matt Olson, where's Josh Naylor playing right now?
Right field. Unfortunately, that would have been the only other spot for him. Unless you move him
you're
to
blocking
left.
Oscar Gonzalez
and Quan. Yeah.
So
it's
there is that too, that we've been able to see because they didn't make those trades. And then when Tito made the decision, I'm going to go with the young guys here and let's see what we've got. There would be guys that would be blocked and we wouldn't see them. And we still could run into that.
Yeah.
If you trade for a Bryan Reynolds, if you trade for an outfield bat, somebody established, it just better be for a clear upgrade. And there's plenty of AA and AAA guys that aren't necessarily going to get opportunities here in Cleveland. And basically all those middle infielders that they had a plethora of, they're all putting them in the outfield right now because that's their only path to the majors.
They're trying to get Nolan Jones some work in the outfield. We don't know what the future holds for him. But Bryan, I want to get your thoughts on this. I saw on Twitter today that there was a potential trade being floated around between the Chicago Cubs and our Cleveland Guardians. The trade, the Guardians would send infield extraordinaire Owen Miller, minor league infielder Jose Tena, and 2 minor league pitchers to the Chicago Cubs for Ian Happ, who is an outfielder, and catcher Wilson Contreras.
What are their contract situations?
Wilson Contreras is a free agent at the end of this season. He is currently playing under an agreed upon amount, which I believe is like 10 million. And then Ian Happ, I believe, is under contract for a couple million through this year and next, if I am not mistaken.
I say, because I feel like we're going to get into a time here soon where Owen Miller could be a man without a position. If they think they have a legitimate shot at making a run at the playoffs, then you do it. If not, then I still hang on to him. Because eventually that trade's going to be Owen Miller for Ian Happ. And do you want to do that for next year and the year after? It has to be for, you're going to win the division, basically. You got to think you're going to win the division if you're going to make that trade.
Ian Happ is a great player for the Cubs, switch hitting outfielder. He's having a pretty decent season. Contreras, obviously the heart of Chicago right now, since they've dealt everybody else, the Javi Baez and Anthony Rizzo and KB Chris Bryant. I I would love the trade. I would be extremely happy about it. But again, Contreras would be a rental player, because I don't see the Guardians handing out a fat contract to him to be an everyday catcher. Although he's good defensively, he's got a great attitude, and he's very offensive minded. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this one. If you could guarantee me that you're going to be able to sign Contreras for like a 2-year deal for like 20 mil, 24 mil, like I wouldn't give him more than 12 million. So it'll be interesting. I'd really like to see Bryan Reynolds in a Guardians uniform. What's it going to take to get him?
A slew of our middle infielders.
Pittsburgh's rebuilding, folks, and I don't think they're going to keep Bryan Reynolds much longer. They're going to deal him. I've heard Miguel Andujar of the Yankees, he's actually requested to be traded because the team keeps bringing him up and sending him down and bringing him up and sending him down. He's tired of the back and forth. He has asked the Yankees for a trade. To my knowledge, they're trying to find a trade. They just haven't found one. Andujar is a third baseman and a first baseman, and he plays the corner outfield spots. Do I want him in a Guardians uniform? No, I don't think so. He's not better than what we currently have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would like to see them make a deal for maybe a pitcher if it's going to help boost the rotation.
Yeah, I think that's something that they could use, especially because injuries are going to not pile up, but injuries are going to happen. And if they're going to make a playoff push, they could use a guy that I think could kind of slide into that slot, or, you have a little bit more wiggle room in long relief.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them getting kind of a bottom end rotation player, or somebody that can help out in long relief.
I got a guy that's perfect in mind. His name is Martin Perez of the Texas Rangers. He's a left-hander. I think he would fit beautifully in with this team. You actually told me about him, and I had to look him up.
He was floated out there as a trade on MLB.com. I believe it's an MLB.com article of who would potentially be interested. Yeah, if they could get a pitcher and they could get an outfield bat, I think this would really make this team something in the stretch, in the doldrums of summer of August and September. But it starts this week.
It does. Starts tomorrow night in Minnesota against the division leading Twins. Listen, we've been a part of some amazing trade deadlines with this team. I trust the front office of Chris Antonetti. I trust Tito Francona as our manager. I know that people may hate the Dolan family, but guess what? They just brought in a minority owner. Guys, they're not looking to just be passive here. I think they're making the decisions and making the moves to make this team great. They went out and signed Jose to his massive extension. They signed Miles Straw and Emmanuel Clase to extensions because they're building pieces, and you want them
offered
a part
Bieber
of your
an
team.
Extension.
Exactly. Bieber said he'll talk in the offseason. Guys,
now,
it's coming.
The only thing I want to say, and to kind of piggyback off that, is let's say Blitzer does take over as majority owner and he spends like crazy. Spending like crazy does not necessarily make a winning team. Just be careful what you wish for.
Ask the Yankees.
You had mentioned
about that.
And ask the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
How many poor front office decisions have they made in their tenure here?
Yeah.
My biggest wish list with any owner, and I hope that he figures it out in his 6 years as minority owner, is how good of a front office they have and to keep it intact. Keep Mike Chernoff, keep Chris Antonetti, and keep that flow that they consistently do of promoting guys from within and learning from that culture and learning what they do best. And if you can take some of the shackles off of Antonetti and Chernoff and give them an influx of cash and say, hey, be a little more aggressive for that free agent, be a little more aggressive with that trade, because maybe we could sign him to an extension.
Yeah.
Then I think that's kind of the best of both worlds for this team.
I could not agree with you more. 1,000%. This trade deadlines are always fun with this team. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. The rest of this, we got a week left of June. We've got July coming. Guys, baseball in Cleveland. Guess what? It is the top bill right now. football's, they're in camp, and it's just bad news when we're talking about the Browns right now. The Cavs are done.
NBA is over for the season. Right. Stanley Cup
NHL,
finals are
we're not even
over.
in it. So what does it matter? What are you going to watch? NASCAR? Are you going to watch golf? Those are great, but come on. Cleveland Guardians, it's where it's at. Bryan, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at Weathershaw. It's WXSHAW on Twitter. Bryan Shaw on Facebook. We are Guardians Land on Twitter.
Yep. On Facebook, you can find us at Guardians of the Land MLB Podcast. You can find me at Mike Voorhees, both on Twitter and Facebook. Bryan, it's a pleasure as always, man. I could sit here and talk to you for another hour easily about this. I am so excited about this team. I love the direction that they're going. I cannot wait for tomorrow night. It sucks they don't have a game tonight. I really want to watch right now. They're interesting. They're competitive. They're making baseball fun in Cleveland right now.
And it's an exciting stretch. Minnesota, Boston, Minnesota, Yankees. The next time we talk to you all, we're going to be breaking that stretch of games down, and hopefully we're talking about them being in first place again.
I cannot wait. Bryan, happy as always. Man, I can't wait to talk to you in a couple weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Buckle up, Guardians fans. Keep your hands, your feet, all other objects inside the ride at all times. Get ready. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.